Hello, everybody. This is Bernie Stroum, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Tonight, we have episode number 2 of Diamonds and Dice. It's a baseball simulation show with myself, Bernie Strom, and Beatles Eternally, the co-host. And today's guest is Mike Silva. And tonight's episode is going to be all about Out of the Park Baseball 25. And I want to thank everybody for being here, including Big Clue, who's been hanging around for 21 minutes waiting for the show to start. And there's David Landau checking in with us, and we are going to have a good time tonight talking about Out of the Park Baseball 25. It's a game that was released on March 15th, 2024. It is the 25th edition of the program, and Beatles Eternally, my co-host, has been playing this game since the beginning, 1999. So rather than hear me talk, I'm going to turn this over to Beatles. The show is yours, Beatles. Tell us all about Out of the Park Baseball 25.
All right. Well, I want to preface my remarks by saying that we're happy to be on Bernie's channel where they tolerate people from Chicago. So David Landau joining us as well. So, hey, David, how you doing, man? So, yeah, Out of Park Baseball, right? 1999 DOS program was the coolest thing ever because it used the Sean Layman database, and was hoping to find a copy of it to show, and I will on a future podcast. So I'm going to cut right to the chase before we introduce Michael, my good friend Mick over here. You know, he's a good lad, although he's a West Cork gobshite. But here's the thing. It's probably, and I've said this a billion times, probably the most polarizing baseball sim out there in terms of digital baseball sims. And we'll get into that in some future podcasts too. But let's concentrate, I guess, on Out of the Park 25. They've made some significant additions. One that I really, really like that Mike and I were both beta testers. Mike in the beta from the beginning, I joined it a little bit later, is the player development. And so originally we thought it was just going to be for, something, to play along with the regular season and develop in fictional leagues. Well, as it turns out, the player development is the ultimate what if that you can have. You got to play the game in career mode. But any season, any league that you create or whatever, you have the chance to develop your players. So let's say you're not one of these people that just does a strict replay, but you want to you want to see somebody like, let's say Dave Kingman, for instance. I want him to cut down on his strikeouts a little bit. So sort of in the off season or whatever, you can send him off to like for some training to lower his strikeout totals, things like that. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. So it's a way to kind of maybe subtly create your own baseball narrative in Out of the Park Baseball. The addition of new filters this year makes it a lot of fun. If you're playing back in the 1950s, you want to get that kind of black and white TV vibe. It's there. You want the thing to look like a 1989 baseball sim. It's there. You want it to look like grandma's color TV. It's there. They've made significant improvements in the historical database, and I'm hearing lots of good things. That players are performing more accurately than ever before. And this is a very accurate baseball sim. In fact, there's a little command, a little menu choice, in which if you're doing a strict season replay, it can show you how close your replay is, bearing in mind that there's human intervention to the actual season. A lot of other small changes too in Out of the Park Baseball. This one, I think, plays more smoothly than anything. And in future episodes, we hope to get into more to the nuts and bolts of what Out of the Park 25 has to offer and why at least this commentator thinks it is the best value on the market. But that leads us to something else who's the best. And it's the best Balatro player in the Western Hemisphere, a man who can play Balatro and goalie at the same time. We are talking about none other than friend, Mike Silva. Mike, welcome in, man. We are honored to have you on.
Hey, thanks. It's really a pleasure to be here. Appreciate both of you inviting me on.
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to say your advertising photo here with the, about the show. I just get I'm a little intimidated by how much hair is on both of you on there. I just don't have that amount of hair. So I'm just, so I can't measure up to both of you there.
But Mike, what you lack in hair, you make up in. I'm not it on Bernie's channel.
No, but honestly,
had something to do with horses. There, I said it.
I would like to say on a personal note, thank you for inviting me, and also it's been a pleasure to get to know the both of you in the last year or so. Maybe a little less than a year, but just since I joined, more or less joined this small community of ours, and really took part in that. I mean, that's most of the time I've been playing OTP for 20 years plus, and it's mostly been all on my own. You know what I mean? And it's such a breath of fresh air to hang around with people and to meet people that have like-minded interests. So thank you for having me on.
It's an honor. I'll tell you. Before we get into more to the nuts and bolts and kind of hand it back to our interviewer Bernie, is that I remember it was so cool, right? Because you're kind of a rock star, man. I mean, seriously, we see your ballparks everywhere, and of course the uniform mod, which doesn't get enough love. I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit tonight. Mm-hmm. But I remember seeing a comment from you in one of my broadcasts, and in the next broadcast, I'm like, you guys will never believe who left a comment here. Da 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 da. Silva M, the guy who makes all the ballparks and uniforms for Isle Park. I was so geeked, man.
Yeah.
So, and you become such a good friend and everything, Mike. And the privilege is ours to have you on. Thanks. But now that we're done with all the arse kissing, let's get into Isle Park, buddy.
Yeah, let's do
say? All right.
Yep.
Beatles, what would you say first when Out of the Park, and we're going to talk about Out of the Park 25 because that's what everybody's going to be buying this year.
Mm-hmm.
What first attracted you to Out of the Park baseball when it came out, when you first started to play it back 25 years ago?
The fact that it basically allowed me to create anything I could imagine in Major League Baseball, because I'm not a seasoned replayer by as a role. I do play some, but it was also, but even from that, to have access to be able to play any season in baseball history, and you get all this for one price. And I think that was really the thing, because nothing was really offering that at the time except for two other programs that were offering every season out of the rip. And that was Baseball for Windows. At the time, you could get every season by using the encyclopedia import, and Old Time Baseball, which offered everything up to 1981. But I was looking for something more, and that's why I fell in love with it, Bernie. It touches the student of baseball history in me very, very deeply, and still to this day does.
I started to play the game maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So for me, I'm the last one into the ballpark, so to speak. And I do see
you're in the Bob Uecker seat.
I am. I'm up there in the grandstands in the back row of the right field grandstands with my popcorn, and no one within 14 rows of me. Anyway, to make a long story short, what I liked about the game is its ability. It's a complicated game, but it's easy to play. You can jump right in. You can get going. Mm-hmm. It sets everything up for you. And unlike you, I am a seasoned replayer. Mm-hmm. And it will replay whatever season you want to play with as played lineups, transactions. It does it all automatically. And it's a very easy game to play, I think, if you don't get intimidated by all the different menus and choices it gives you. How do you get around all those menus and choices in the beginning when you started playing the game?
Is this for me or for Mike or both of us?
Both of you, either one of you.
Mike, they've heard me enough. How about if you have a little chin wag here?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I how do I get around the game? The menus. Well, I'm a very simple. I like to keep it simple when I play, right? So, just to give you a little background on myself, I actually started off very young playing OTB. I was like in my early 20s, and I don't even remember what drove me to buy it. Back then you didn't just digital download games. I actually ordered the CD, and the CD came. I don't even know where I found out about it. But up until then, I was playing like triple play baseball from EA Sports and high heat baseball. And I was looking at whatever drove me to that game. Might have been a forum or something. Somebody talking about it. That game, it was so. I mean, for as simple as it was then, like OTP3, it was so deep. Like as far as the rosters, and it had some, had the rosters, it had the real rosters, it had the stats, and you might have to add logos and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed that. But my as I got into OTP and I played probably a bunch of seasons with the real current seasons, I really decided I was like, you know what, I got to give fictional a try. So I really started cutting my teeth with OTP on fictional, believe it or not. I was playing fictional, and that's where I started doing my graphics work. I was doing like my logos and things like that. And then I really didn't get into historical till for really late when I actually not until after I started working on the stadium. So that was probably 2015 to 2014, whatever it was. So anyway, but I found that with historical, there's a lot of options for historical, right? So you start playing historical, and and even in fictional too, because you can really mess around with things because it's really not bound by anything. It's your own imagination there. But with historical, I found in the large community that there is for historical players, they really want to get accuracy, and they tinkering and tinkering and tinkering. It can be a little, feel a little overwhelming. But I feel like OTP as it's evolved, like with all those options, they've really fine-tuned those options where you don't have to tinker as much, and you're able to. They have settings by year. If when you play a season, you load that season. It has all the pre-built or the existing the modifiers, the league totals, and all that stuff. And that can be really, when you're looking at the game, when you're looking at the options, if you get into league settings, that could really drive people away. You could scream in horror when you see all the check boxes and drop down menus and everything that you have to select. But the point is, when I play OTP, I really, very rarely do I get into that level of detail. I usually just start just with whatever the settings they're going to give me for historical, and I just go from there. And I've really found that experience to be pretty rewarding, and not really too many issues with that. So that's just my
Do you
2 cents
find
on that.
if once you download the program from Steam, and if for those people listening that might not know where to get it, it is available either directly from the company or from on the Steam website. And I recommend the Steam website because they keep the game updated for you. You don't have to deal with the updates. Anyway, and of course, and it's much easier to download the parks and the mods and everything, install them on Steam. But when I first started and I downloaded the program, I was intimidated by all those menus and boxes. Do you have any recommendations to people if they want to just download the game and play? What would you suggest to them that they do, how they get started?
Well, I mean, I know they have basically I think this year they really made, if you want to play I'm just kind of looking at it from the historical section. They've even more streamlined that for first time players or for first time people of OTP, where they have like the wizard that they have that sets up the game for you is very, very simple. I think with 3 clicks of a mouse, I mean, they have very simple, very high level options. What, basically you pick the year you want, if you want minor leagues, you want to do that. You want to do import, you want to play with the Negro leagues, you can do that. There are very few check boxes, but there might be 3 clicks of next, and then you're pretty much ready to go. And it brings you right to your home page. You'll pick what team you want to own or you want to manage, and then you're pretty much 3 clicks of the mouse. After that, you're ready to go. So I think they've really done a good job, with the newest version 25 of streamlining that. That is one of the new features. One of the features they're touting is the historical wizard update. So that would be my recommendation.
So what you're saying is that just answer the 3 or 4 questions they have when you get started. Ignore all the other boxes and start playing the game.
I mean, I saw some of the new options are, do you want a season replay, which is basically one season only, like kind of like Action PC or any Digital Diamond or anything like that? Do you want to do a season replay with career mode, which will just continue on to the next season? I think I can't exactly remember there's a couple of other options, but they're pretty much the same, similar to those. But yeah, I mean, before you couldn't. And what happens is when you select season replay, for instance, I think I believe it does have its baked in settings for just that, to be basically just a replay of just one season. Because what happens before is if you select career mode, it's gonna basically project out the historical players' career stats, their ratings. It takes more of that, and you don't get so much of that one season. It's just snapshot in time, So basically, what it does is they've really boil it down to like 2 or 3 buttons that you select really what kind of mode you're interested in, and that really kind of and I think there's been a really good response to how the results are really coming out pretty good this year, and I think that has a lot to do with it.
Beatles, I got a question for you.
Sure.
You don't play season replays because it's not something you enjoy, but you
Not
like
normally. No, I don't.
you like tinkering with particularly dead ball,
Mhm.
but you like other eras also,
All
and
eras. Yeah.
and you put together your own teams, you put together your own leagues, and like to run your own what if scenarios,
Mhm.
similar to what Field of Dreams that we're playing now with Action PC.
Mhm.
Why don't you take a minute and tell people if how easy or difficult it is to set those leagues up using Out of the Park 25?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I just wanted to add first to the question that you asked, Mike. For people that don't want to necessarily get into the historical part of it because you may not be, familiar with some players or you're just not sure, avail yourself of the quick starts. The quick starts are a great way also to get into the game without getting into all the complexity. All right. So that being said, I think that if you're going to start a deep dive into out of the park baseball, go into the tournament mode because it will allow you to play up. You can create a tournament with up to 70 teams. You can play any World Series that you want, or you can just play any team against any other team throughout baseball history. And I think that's a great, great way to go a little deeper than just, well, I'm going to play 1975 or I'm going to play 1992 or what have you. I think that the tournament mode's excellent. It's kind of it's part of the core game, but it's also a little bit separate. But what's nice about it is, again, as Mike says, with just a few mouse clicks, like you can be up at doing a World Series in 3 mouse clicks. Boom, 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 you're done. Or any 2 teams or what have you. You're in there and you're already in what if land, which is a lot of fun. Then once you get comfortable with that, to me, the most powerful thing in out of the park baseball where I play is custom leagues. That's where you really, really, you've opened Pandora's box, you've let the genie out of the bottle, whatever, maybe not the best analogies. But for a lot of people, if I just want to make a little editorial comment about this, some of the slams that out of the park baseball gets is its complexity. But so that complexity is, Mike and I were talking the other night, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It really is.
Yep.
But they advertise this as the infinite baseball sandbox, and it is. There's no other digital baseball game that allows you to play the entirety of minor league baseball. So that's Pacific Coast League. You can go all the way down to rookie league, instructional league, what have you. Negro League baseball. It's all there. It's all there. But so the more complex any sort of system becomes, right, the more moving parts you're going to have. And I think a lot of people get, turned off and they say, I just want to play a damn game. So start with a quick start, or start, as Mike said, pick a season you're familiar with, 3 clicks you're in, right? Most people, I mentioned 1975. That's a really popular season to do. A lot of people replay that season. Pick one, players that pick that team that you want to manage, have fun with it. But then as you're going through, I would say this: when you do a season replay or anything, play in commissioner mode, because commissioner mode opens up all kinds of other things. Then maybe say for a while you're managing the Red Sox. You're like, well, all right, now I'm going to branch out a little bit. I want to manage the Reds. Well, if you're in commissioner mode, you just switch, and that's going to get you more used to the menus. This game lets you ease in, but start from something basic, as Mike said, really. Mm-hmm. And then you can get extremely deep with this game. Obviously, we're not going to talk about them tonight, but you can have feeder leagues, all kinds of things. It's incredibly deep, but I would say don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. It's very rewarding, and the time that you take all the time. There's no time limit, and learn the game, and you're going to find just a treasure trove of great baseball to play.
Not to totally change the subject, but
Mhm.
and either one of you two guys can answer this question. When I started to play this game, what attracted to me wasn't the 100 years of teams that were available for one price.
Well,
What
like 140, but yeah, anyhow.
Yeah.
what attracted me was it had the current season that was about to be played. So on
Mhm.
March 15th, you download this game, and right there you have the 2024 season, and I can play along with today's games, and I could play the game like it was today. I could play it before it happened.
Right.
And I really enjoy doing that. Now, I know nothing about, and I don't believe it's available yet, but it's got to be coming up shortly. And you two guys being the
Drive for the
playtesters,
pennant.
the drive for the pennant. What can you guys tell us about that?
That's
Pretty much
going to be fun,
nothing.
Mike. Well,
Nothing.
nothing more than the
Nothing from
community
experience
knows.
because it's not
Right.
there. And honestly, I don't think it's even. I don't even know that it's even available even for testing at this
Right.
point. So I
Right.
mean, I really don't have.
So-
That's a feature I'm looking forward to. Let's put it that way.
The idea behind Drive for the Pennant is so you can start out, and by the way, Strat suck it. Got to say it. I know it's not my channel, but if you want to play the new season in Strat PC, you've got to buy the whole game, right? So Out of the Park's really cool, right? It's like you're gonna get that season, but here's the thing. So you can out of the rip, as Bernie said, you can play along with the 2024 season. The idea behind Drive for the Pennant is that it's kind of you're playing it as more of a kind of omniscient GM that can drop in key parts of games or series or whatever. So it's a kind of I think it's a kind of way. It's a middle ground between people that are strictly I want to play on field managing baseball, which many of us do, and then guys like there's a big YouTuber out there, PF Holden, who strictly, and his videos are great. And if you're interested in the GM side of Out of the Park Baseball, do check out his videos. Drive for the Pennant kind of gives you both in a kind of gentle way. I'm looking forward to it too, especially since my Bucks are off to a hot start. Dave Gardner's with us here tonight, by the way. Dave, Dwayne, everybody. Hi guys. Mike in the truck. So yeah, it hasn't been the other thing we're waiting for, of course, is the Hall of Fame content. That they have a partnership this year with the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. One thing that we will see are the actual Hall of Fame plaques. They're going to be put in at some point. I think that's cool. As far as the artifacts, exhibits, it's anybody's guess at this point.
All right. I'm hoping that they put the Hall of Fame game in there. That would be kind of cool.
Well,
that'd be brilliant.
Do you know whether they're going to? What are they going to use for stats? I know Stratomatic redoes the cards every day based on how the players are actually playing. Is that Out of the Park's intention? Do you know?
Well, I know that. Well, I can tell you that they actually already have a live OTP, like a live version where you can act a live. It's called Live Start, and so during the season, during the current regular season, you can start a game, if you start a game today, you'll already have the stats up to the current day, and you start from today, like the sim. So and it imports all the stats, transactions, everything up to the current day. So you can start at any time during the season, that's already been in there for at least a few versions. I think I've never really used it, but that's already there. And I think they're probably using that probably going to use that for the Drive for the Pennant type of thing, right? So that they already have that mechanism in place, I believe. So if that answers your question, Bernie, I'm not sure.
Basically what I'm hearing is you can do anything with this game that you can think of doing.
Yes.
You can come up with an idea for however you want to play a baseball sim, and it can be set up using Out of the Park 25. Is that correct?
It's correct. And here's the thing too, when you think that they finally raised the price on it this year, and deservedly so. When you consider, and so Bernie, I know you were going to talk about this, but maybe I'll just jump in. Not a slam on games like Action PC Baseball. I've invested a lot of money in that game, as many of us have. But when you think about what you're getting with Out of the Park Baseball, Major League Baseball, Minor League Baseball, you're getting some international leagues, Negro leagues, what have you, all the alternate major leagues throughout history. Your imagination is the limit, and so if you can think of it, you can probably do it. So for instance, what Legends is doing right now, which he deserves huge applause, by the way, with what he's doing in MLB The Show. He's making that program do what it wasn't designed to do. Well, newsflash, you can do it already out of the box in Out of the Park Baseball. And it's brilliant. You know, the random debut league is amazing, but there's ways to even control that. You have to get under the hood. You got to be able to get, you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. But yeah, you're right, Bernie. In fact, I just saw a mod for the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League in Out of the Park Baseball. So how cool is that?
You know, it's a fun game to play. You know, you mentioned Action PC, and I really do enjoy Action PC, and I enjoy it as much as Out of the Park Baseball. But I find them two different games, and I get two different experiences when I play. Both of them enjoyable. What I particularly like about Out of the Park Baseball, maybe other people won't enjoy as much. I love the minor leagues. Underneath. When I replay a season and I got to deal with the minor leagues and I have players that get injured and I'm not playing, if I'm not playing an as played setup and I let players get injured, you got to deal with putting these players on the disabled list. You got to dive into the minor leagues and bring guys up, and you can't just do it like you can an Action PC at your whim. You have to conform to Major League Baseball rules. You bring a guy up, send him down, and you try to bring him up in 2 days, they'll tell you he can't come up for 8 more days. He's got to stay down for 10 days. You have to know baseball, the rules of baseball, and I think it teaches you the rules of baseball. And if you don't know those things, you're going to learn them playing this game. I think that's a great part of this game.
Exactly. And Bernie, just on that point, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up. Is that aside from the playing the game and managing and all the options you can do, I actually use this game as more of like an encyclopedia a lot of times too. Like for instance, just as an example, like I'll come across a post about something, maybe like so and so did something for the Pawtucket Red Sox in 1982, right? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, you know. So what I'll do is I'll go, if I want to find out more about that year, I go into Out of the Park. I start up a 1982 season with the minor leagues, and there it is. Everything's there. I can find out. Let's say Wade Boggs is on Pawtucket, say that, just for example. I can find out who he played with on the minor leagues, who was in the league that in the AAA that year, like any people from the 80s were in there. You know what I mean? It's amazing. You can load up the game, default settings, and you have basically a whole encyclopedia of minor league baseball along with major league.
Yeah,
and I'm talking. I mean, the amount of work that goes into that, like to put in the research. And the minors are fine. The minors, that's all the historical stuff that's already happened. It's just a matter of researching them, and you never have to do it again. But the current season, they also have all the minor leagues. They have all the they have the draft classes. They have all. So that you come up to the current draft in the current season, you're going to get all the people that are projected to be in the draft for this year. It's amazing, right? I mean, who does that? I mean, there's no game that I know of that actually does that. That actually has the real. Usually when you play any game like MLB The Show or Madden or whatever, you come up to the draft, you get like Joe Schmo, Joe Blow, number 2, like as draft picks. You know what I mean? There's nobody. It's just fictional guys. But this actually gives you everything. I couldn't even. Here we are. It's almost half past the hour, and we haven't even scratched the surface of all the stuff that OTP can do.
Mike, I want to add, if I could, something you mentioned before, which is really cool. So, and I've said this too. The thing I've said is you have baseball reference in this program. You have it. It's there, and at that depth, this thing is crazy. But the other thing is, let's go back to our 1975 example. And Mike, this is something that you and I have talked about as well, and that you kind of reminded me of. So you're playing 1975. The game takes you back to 1975. So when you're seeing career milestones and you're seeing things, it's only taking baseball up to 1975, which is super cool, right?
Awesome. That's a huge and I'll tell you, I'm no shot against Action PC or Digital Diamond or Strat or any of those games. Well, I found those games. I actually started playing those for the first time this past year, and I really enjoy them. They have a lot that I like about it. But what I couldn't understand was that I'm used to from OOTP, and I took it for granted. Was when you start a season and you have the option of importing all of the records up to that date, up to that time, And it's just, and we're talking every team record, every league record, like all the Hall of Fames. The Hall of Fame is actually up to date to that point in time as well. So, and you can actually look at the players in the Hall of Fame. It's just it's like you said, it's an encyclopedia. I mean, you could look at they have retired numbers. You can even have the retired numbers of each team.
Yep.
You know, you can look. There's a screen for that under each team. It's an amazing thing. Like when you play games, my favorite thing about playing, OTP historical, is when you're playing out. I like to play out games, right? So when you're playing out a game and the guy gets up and say, "Oh, he has 4,980 career hits." Oh no, hits. I'm sorry, 2,980 career hits. He's almost at he's almost at he's almost at 3,000 hits. It's like you actually it draws you in even more. You're like, oh, I can't wait to see him hit his 3,000 hit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like that's a little bit that stuff that's lacking from other games, and I don't know many other games that have that, right? That have the career stats, and I feel like it's huge as a historical replayer. It's a huge plus to have that. You know what I mean? I mean to have all the records and see them racing for the milestones, and it's really cool.
It's very interesting because you have all these things you can do with the game, yet you can download it and in 10 minutes be playing a game by answering 3 questions.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, but I want to change gears a little bit here because I have never really paid much attention to Perfect Team. And I know that you can talk about Perfect Team for 10 hours, and I don't want to do that here because we only have an hour and we have 28 minutes left. But the Field of Dreams League that we're all part of and that we get on the Discord has been, a lot of the chat has been taken over by everyone's Perfect Team participation with Out of the Park 25. And this is Field of Dreams is a league that we use Action PC Baseball in, and we talk about Action PC Baseball. And once again, that's both a simple and complicated program. There's a lot of moving parts in Action PC that you have to learn about, similar to Out of the Park Baseball. But I'm surprised at how much time and how excited you guys get with your Perfect teams. So if you guys could take a minute and talk about what Perfect Team is and how you use it and why it's so much fun, I think our listeners might enjoy hearing about that.
Yeah. So let me just I can start. Sorry, Beatles.
Please do.
So Perfect Team is amazing. It's actually a big dividing point between a lot of OTP faithful people, because they instituted Perfect Team, and of course it has the in-app purchases where you can buy packs. It's like Ultimate Team if you played, or what is it called? Diamond Dynasty and MLB The Show, or they have NHL Ultimate Team, all Madden Ultimate Team, where you buy packs, or you don't have to buy them, but you can earn points. But you can also have the option to pay money, which a lot of people don't like. But I'm here to tell you that this is like that. I mean, that's based off of packs that you open, players that you auctioned off. I mean, there's no trading with other players directly, but there's auction houses, and you build your team with all kinds. They have all types of cards. It's not just all Hall of Famers. We're talking players that might have been a flash in the pan. We have players that are ranged from like the lowest ratings to the highest ratings. And I'm here to tell you, I just want to get this out there. I know we don't want to spend a whole lot of time on Perfect Team, but there's a bunch of the Perfect Team is about just as deep, and there's many different modes of play as the core game, which is amazing, right? They came up with a game and they have all these different ways to earn points, so you don't even have to pay a dime. I've played Perfect Team every season. It's basically create an account. You sign up, you give them your email, you create an account, and you're there. And they give you 6 packs to start off to build your first team with, and you're off and running. And you don't have to, I can tell you for sure, you don't have to pay a dime to have fun. Now, with that being said, I will say don't plan on being in the highest tier leagues if you're not paying money, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. If you're there to play to win and be the best, have the best team per team, you're probably going to have to spend money. And but for me personally, I like to mostly just collect the cards because they have thousands of cards that you can open that you can get. And I like to just do the collections, buy cards, do the auction house. We sell you duplicates.
But tell me about the player you got without spending a dime, though.
Yeah, well, one of the most sought after cards in the game was this Lou Gehrig from last version. Was like a 97 Lou Gehrig, and I just know it was because it was worth 500,000 perfect points, which is probably if you had to buy that much. I think you'd have to spend like $500 or something like that. You know what I mean? So
Can you? But I don't mean to interrupt. But could you take a minute and explain how you start
sure.
perfect
Well,
play?
yeah, there's
Tell
a
them how
right.
to get excuse me. Tell them how you would get going in participating.
Well, yeah, I mean, right at the main menu, there's an option on the right hand side of the screen to sign up. You can sign up right there, and you just put your email in, and it'll send you a confirmation, I believe. Honestly, I can't remember because I've had an account for a long time, so I haven't really had to change it. But yeah, they must send you a confirmation, or you just send it. You put the email in and just set it up, and it checks your email and says, okay, it's good. It's a valid email. You're good to go. And basically the first thing you do is you press play, play perfect team, and it loads up, and there's an introduction screen with like 6 packs, and you just pick the pack, and it opens it up, and you get like 6 players per pack. So you get 36 players, I believe, or 6 or 5. I can't. Yeah, it's 6 players, and then so you basically it gives you enough players to build your team with an initial team. They're not great players. You might get one gold card. The cards are tiered. They have iron, which is the lowest, like 50 to 40 to 50 or something. Silver, I'm sorry, bronze, which is in the 60s. Silver is in the 70s. Gold is in the 80s. Diamond is in the 90s, and actually have perfect cards, which are hundreds. They have 100 rated players. So obviously they all vary in range. Like obviously the lower tiered ones are the more affordable ones. But so you open up a pack, you have odds. It tells you what the odds are when you buy different types of packs, like what types of cards could be in there. You might have a 1 in 1,000 shot at getting a perfect card from a normal 1,000 point pack. But anyway, so you build your team. Then you set your lineup just like you would like in the OTP game. It's just very familiar. The same lineup screen, same pitching rotation screens. And they have the league screen. And then what happens is it throws you into a pool, an initial pool, and every week is a season. So they sim a season every week. It's like every day they sim every half an hour. It sims a day. So basically every half an hour there's a sim. So you can update your lineup, submit your lineup, and within that half hour, then it's already updated, and the next day you have the new lineup, right? So you can every day you open up one new pack. Every day they give you a free pack, at least one free pack. There's a range too. If you log in 30 days, you end up getting like a free diamond pack. So you get like a really good card. So you log in every day, you're going to build, just from doing that, you're going to build up a pretty decent team, at least to compete with like some of the lower levels. And I don't really do much about that. Like I said, I like to collect myself. So I usually let the computer figure out my lineups and stuff. But sometimes I like to micromanage, and if I get a good card, like, oh, I want to replace this guy with this guy. And the cool thing is there's tons of ways to get points, right, on for free. And if I can just take a minute, I'll just see if I can list them off. So there's the regular game, which is build your team that you have right from the 6 packs. You build a team during the game. You can get points from game accomplishments. Like for instance, I got 7,500 perfect points in one game because I hit 5 home runs in an inning. It was like a power inning or something. I got that many points. I was like, I logged in yesterday. I was like, holy crap! Like, where did I get this from? So you can get that. I mean, so if you accomplish these feats, you could do something like steal 2 bases and you get like 25 points, right? So there's a big scale. So you can get points that way just by playing the regular game. They also have tournaments that you can enter in your team in. They have different types of tournaments, like silver only, bronze only tournaments, all different types of tournaments. You have tournaments with salary caps if you wanted to get into that, and you can join 2 tournaments at a time there, and that's right from the main menu. They have a perfect draft, which is a whole other thing we could do a deep dive in. Perfect draft is a whole other draft. It doesn't take your team into account, but you sign up for it, and it actually gives you this 15 rounds that you go through. And it starts off with, you pick one. The first round is you pick one 100 rated player. They give you 6 of them to pick from. And then the second round, you pick a diamond level player. The third round, you pick a diamond level player. Fourth round, you start picking 2 gold players. And then so you go through all these rounds where you kind of the players get gradually worse and worse, but you have to build a team, and you just join this tournament with other people that do the same thing, and you see if you can win. You have to see what kind of team you can build. And the cool thing is you don't have to own the players. They give you the ones, so you can get a Rogers Hornsby. He could be one of the first. Oh, I got to have Rogers Hornsby. Oh, do I choose between Hornsby or Roger Clemens 86? Or do I, what I mean? It's really cool. So, and the cool thing about that was I had a few players. One of the other players from our Field of Dreams League, we both entered the same tournament at the same time. We were doing our draft, and so we actually both were in the same tournament online. So it was kind of neat. So if you get a group of people all at the same time, you could probably do that and enter enter a team into a tournament or a draft. So there's the perfect draft, there's tournaments, there's a PT live feature, which is another, again, that actually is like a fantasy draft, where a live fantasy draft where you actually pick the players from your team, the current players, the ones from the this season, and you actually put lineups in every day, and depending on how they do in real life, you actually get fantasy points. You get perfect points for. So that's it's almost like doing a FanDuel thing, and it's not for money, but you get perfect points. But it'll tell you who the starting pitchers are supposed to be for the day. You click this checkbox, you click, show today's starters, and whatever card you have that players that are starting today, you can put 2 starting pitchers in, you put 2 utility players in, 2 relievers, and then 1 from each position to start, in the field. It's really cool. There's that. And then there's, I might be missing one. There's probably, I think that's 3 or 4 modes right there you can get perfect points from. And it's just really amazing.
What I
Perfect team.
find interesting.
All that for $50, I should.
Yeah, it's amazing. I could go on and on. Honestly, that's like, I sorry for talking so long, but
That's
I'm just trying
okay.
to run through all
I
this
want
stuff.
people to hear about this stuff because I'll tell you why I even bring it up. Our community, we're into playing baseball sims, and we play them all. And all of us probably own many more games than we'll ever have time to play, and we play them all. And with this Field of Dreams League, we have a very active voice Discord. And everybody gets together in the morning. You get anywhere from 4 to 10 people on the Discord in the morning. And I get on and I want to talk about Field of Dreams and Action PC Baseball. And everybody's talking about their perfect team with Out of the Park Baseball. And you go on and on. The excitement that you guys get from playing these perfect teams seems to me, from an outsider who's never played it, to be even more exciting than actually playing a sim of that we're playing. Am I wrong about that?
Bernie,
or you get that excitement.
I get that feeling like a kid when you open up a pack of cards, right? And you're like, oh, I got so and so, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I got like one of your childhood favorite players. And believe me, you can get, there's thousands of players. They have all kinds from all different eras. You could get like, I don't know, Dick Pole from the Red Sox or whatever from the 70s. Nice, good name. I don't know why.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
But they have like players.
Wasn't he in a film with Ron Jeremy or something?
But I mean, there's players. It's like I said, it's all players from all types. It's not just all stars. It's like everybody. You could play. So you'd be like, oh wow, I can't believe this guy. It's like memory lane. That's the exciting part. I think that Dave and a lot of us have been doing that. But Bernie, I guess the question is, how come you haven't started it? How come you haven't started the team?
Because it not in my field of interest. However,
right.
However, I'd rather play with the historical play. I would rather play the historical games and do the season replays.
Yep.
As everybody knows, I'm obsessed with the Boston Red Sox. And my only purpose of doing this is to avenge the myriad of Boston Red Sox fatal mistakes they've made in my lifetime. And I've been around a long time, and I can list them. And before I die, I just want to fix all these things, from my first disappointment of losing the 7th game of the 67 World Series to the last disappointment prior to their current run of World Series victories, Wakefield's pitch to Aaron Boone in Yankee Stadium in 2003. Once I get that stuff fixed, I may have time to get to the perfect team. But we've talked now for 45 minutes about Out of the Park, and we've only touched the surface of it, which
it's very
is what I
frustrating
find
because
interesting.
there's not enough time. Yeah,
we're gonna have one of these shows once a month. I'd like to do them more than once a month, but you know how difficult it is to tie Beatles down to a date.
Oh no.
Okay.
Don't be a West Cork gobshite now, Bernie.
Sorry, Beatles. Anyway.
Well, Bernie, I just want to say one thing. You don't have to spend a lot of time on the perfect team. You can set up your team and let it just go. You can check in on it once a week, and you'll see
my Dublin Banshees are doing all right, by the way.
Yeah, so I'm just telling you, you can check in once a week if that's all you have time for.
Well,
and you can open. You'll find you'll have a bunch of points. You can just open up some packs when you have a little bit of time. And
you've known me.
Yeah.
You've known me for less than a year. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen me just get into something and let it ride?
No. Well, if that's the thing. If you're just trying to regulate yourself for of things that you're going to get addicted to, then I understand that. Okay.
But to make a long story short, we've been talking about this for 45 minutes, and we really
Yeah.
haven't gone deep into anything.
No.
What Beatles and I plan on doing is in several of the shows in the upcoming year, we'll take one of these one of these sections that we've just touched upon and take a deep dive into it. So if anyone's listening to the show that wants to do that, they will learn how to do that. There is not a better teacher of this stuff that I'm aware of than Beatles eternally. He teaches this stuff better than anybody I've ever listened to, and he's really good at it. So I think
Thank
you'll
you,
enjoy
Bernie.
it. But before, and you guys both can take a shot at this next question, but it's mostly for Mike, and I do know that Beatles knows a lot about this stuff and how to do it, but I think that the audience may like to know, Beatles and Mike, how Mike got involved in putting these wonderful mods together for Out of the Park baseball.
Is this right? Go on mute so I don't repeat my comment pre-show.
Yeah, I think so. How did Out of the Park baseball come to you, or you go to Out of the Park baseball, and they decide to incorporate all these beautiful stadiums that not only we use for Out of the Park baseball, but we use it for Action PC and any other game we want to use these parks for? How did you get started?
Well, nobody really came to me. I just OOTP decided, thank God, that they wanted to go with the 3D route with displaying their games in 3D, and immediately, my head perked up. Now, mind you, I had no experience doing anything 3D modeling, anything like that, right? But I know that my interest in stadiums and different parks of baseball since I was a kid was there. I mean, I loved it. I used to sketch little, Fenway parks and little like Astrodomes on pieces of lined paper, at school, and I just loved like the different, the different dimensions and the different how unique each park was. So that includes the cookie cutter stadiums, which is what I grew up with too. But even they have a little bit of uniqueness, even though they, not much, but. And Beatles knows that from, well, I don't know if you've been to Three Rivers before. I don't know if you were in
Yeah,
Pennsylvania.
Three Rivers survived until 2001.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, right. So anyway, so the thing was, once I saw that they were going to 3D, I just took it upon myself. I said, you know what? And I found out there was like a SketchUp, a program called SketchUp for free. And I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. Like, I think this is something I'd love to do. And at that point, I was already doing like logos, and I think I was doing these different types of uniforms and things like that, like the old uniform templates, and just doing fictional stuff mostly. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do it. And I was heavily in the fictional league. So actually, the first, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe more than that stadiums I did were all fictional. I just kind of thought of them. And I had already made like 2D ones before my fictional leagues, so I decided I was going to try to make those into 3D. And that's how I started. And so I published those 3D stadiums, and people loved them because I think they only had one stadium that came with the game. It was a model that I think they got it off of SketchUp, the sharing model. And the cool thing is you could download models and use them, but it wasn't very intuitive to do that for a user. So I just decided to really dive into that, and obviously with SketchUp, I started off, my first works were not very impressive at all. It was like, it's akin to like a stick figure. If you're drawing a person, like, oh, I'm gonna draw a stick figure. Anyway, but and then what happened was I was like, you know what? I couldn't resist. Like once I got a little bit better, I couldn't resist. Like, all right, I gotta find a stadium. Like I don't even really remember what my first actual MLB historic stadium was. It might have been like Baker Bowl or something like that, something small. But I'll tell you, man, once I saw how those come out, and I started to refine my skills just from doing just by working with the program, I was hooked. I would not stop working on that. I don't think I played a game of OOTP for about three years. I think I had OOTP, but I would use it basically. I would be building those stadiums, testing them. I'd use games. I would test the stadiums and stuff. I'd have to configure everything, the 2D pictures, everything. And I just went along, and I did each. I think I did each team I did once, and then I was like, you know what? Busch Stadium has like 4 different fence configurations. I got to do 4 different versions. So I basically started doing each different version. And it turned out that I had like over 200 historical parks, right? Different versions of each one. So, but anyway, and along that time, I was posting them on the forum, on the OTP forum, and it just took off. Like they stickied the post, and it had a list of all the parks you could download, and people just loved them. So, and that's kind of where it took off from. And now, every year I try to get everything ready, for the new game and test everything. And most of my beta testing is testing all the stadiums and making sure everything loads into the historical years correctly, and the uniforms. The same thing. Uniforms is the same kind of deal. I just decided, like, somebody had done historical uniform mods before, but it was with the older templates. So I decided I was going to try to refresh that with the newer ones. And I just kind of redid. I did everything in it, except I started to include like third jerseys and alternates and all that stuff, historical ones. And so yeah, that's just how it really came out. And really, OTP doesn't have anything to do with it. Like the company, they didn't come to me. I just decided to take it on. And I think people just said, hey, Jesus, he's on a roll. Just let him go. I was fully expecting other people to be jumping in and doing a park here, a park there, but unfortunately, nobody really ever did that. It was kind of funny. I'm always like, all right, when is everybody else going to jump in? Like, I'm like, no, I guess not. I guess I'll do it. So it was a really good time. Like I would say at least 3 or 4 years. I swear to God, I don't think I played OTP like really like how I used to play it for about 3 or 4 years because of that.
Did you work with Steam at all for the workshop?
No, actually, that one I
how
actually
did that
worked.
develop?
Well, I worked with the developer, one of the guys at OTP, just to figure, because I didn't know how to create a workshop item or how to. I mean, it's that itself is really kind of self-explanatory. Well, not self-explanatory, but it's not. I mean, I just worked with the developer and I asked him how do you do this? How can I get it to work? And I actually had to work out some bugs with that because that was kind of new as well when they went to Steam. So I actually worked with the developer and figured out the process of getting the mods uploaded. And it's really set. But now that you know what it is, it's now that I know how to do it, it's not that hard. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's easy to show people to do. And that's how it's supposed to be because they want users to come up and make things. And they don't want the developers to have to work with every user to come up with them, to put the stuff on Steam. But yeah, so that's the Steam integration. That's really cool. The only thing I don't like about that is it takes up a lot of space on my hard drive because I for every version I have all my parks, like it's like 6 gigs or 3 gigs or whatever it is for each version on my hard drive. I'm like, all right, it's starting to build up now. But
how many hours do you think you put in this on an annual basis to keep everything up to date?
Sheesh. Well, for the parks, not so much. It's not as much as it used to be. Oh my God, like just building the parks, refining them. I think they're in, and even this year I kind of went back and I like to try to fix a little few things, or not fix them, but like I added like team logos to parks that had the logos on the walls and stuff. Like in the 80s, mostly they had that, like the little discs on the walls with I actually added the logos on most of the parks now this year, stuff like that. So I don't really spend a whole lot of time on those. And there's really not many. I pretty much have made every single version of the park that I can think of. Although one guy posted something about a Comiskey Park between 1976 and 80, where they actually removed the bullpens in center field, which I didn't know about. There's no diagram for that, but I might actually make another version of Comiskey that shows that. I actually had to. I'm like, really, that happened? Because I thought I knew everything about everything. So I was like, I researched it, and sure enough, there's right around the time with the disco demolition. Right, I don't think there were bullpens in center field. I think it was like actually the whole field was used. I think whoever took over the ownership decided to do that. Was it Veek or something, or Bill Veek or something like that? I don't know.
Bill Veeck.
Yeah, Bill Veeck.
Yeah. So anyway, that's cool. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I remember telling you, I don't know if you remember this, but we're discussing Fenway Park. And when I first started to go to Fenway Park, it was about 1960. And the flagpole in center field wasn't enclosed in the wall like it is today. And yeah. I think I'm actually told you that. You fixed that.
Yeah, I did. Fixed it right on the spot. you told me about it. I'm like, really? Well, that's the thing. I love it because I love the history of everthing, right?
I'll never forget the day I'm in the bleachers with my father. I don't know. I was 10 years old, maybe 11. And the Red Sox were playing the Cleveland Indians. And Jimmy Pearsall had been traded from the Red Sox. He originally came up with the Red Sox. He was on the Cleveland Indians. And Pearsall was known to do some really strange things. Like when he hit his 100th home run, he ran around the bases backwards or something. I don't know. And he got upset about something, and he stopped the game. He walked over to the flagpole. He sat on the base of the flagpole with his back to home plate, and the umpires had to talk him into going back to center field to play. That's what I remember about that flagpole in center field, and of course, they enclosed it shortly thereafter. That might have been the reason. Who knows? As we come towards the end of the show, I do want to ask Beatles. I can't think of everything. So what have I not asked you about out of the park baseball that you want to talk about in our last 5 minutes of the show?
Well, I mean, I don't want to take the whole 5. I would just say this. Out of the park baseball kind of requires you to make a little kind of shift in your paradigm, your accepted way of thinking. So, and Mike touched on something earlier that I think bears repeating, is that with most baseball sims, you're buying a season and you're in that season, but you're not, the sense of history that you get and that narrative that you're creating is kind of that season is sort of just in situ. That's it. There's not the rest of it. And out of the park baseball gives you everything. And so even in the context of your own season replays or what ifs or what have you, and bearing in mind, one thing I did want to talk about really quickly is even when you create leagues of teams or players from different eras, the league history, the newspaper, the things like that, what this game generates is absolutely brilliant. If you're willing to get in there and say, okay, you want to do more than just spend $50 to play one season. I mean, you can go and buy PC Replay Baseball to do that, or Action PC Baseball, or whatever. And again, excellent programs. But Out of the Park gives you something that no other game has. You are getting the history of professional baseball, not just Major League Baseball. You get that. You go on right now on Action PC Baseball. I think there's like 6 PCL seasons. Out of the Park has them all. It's the thing. I guess just to end it for me, and then I'll shut up. Don't be afraid of the game. Don't be afraid of it. There's plenty of people in the community. The Out of the Park forums are helpful. You have folks here like Mike and myself and others who have played this game from the beginning or near the beginning. And you'll find, in fact, the next tutorial I'm going to be doing on my channel is doing player import, but we're going to be more focused. How would you like to be able to recreate any all-star game in history? Well, I'm going to show you how to do it. These are the things that you can do in this game. It's not hard if you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. And that's what I'll say. For $50, there's no better bargain out there. And that includes Digital Diamond, because Digital Diamond is its own thing. It's great, but Out of the Park, it's there. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I can see not only we'll discuss all of these baseball sims over the course of however long we decide to do this video podcast, but we're going to do specific shows, like I said, about the different aspects of this particular game because it's so comprehensive.
It's a monster. It's a monster.
Mike, is there anything you want to add before we say goodbye to everybody?
No, I just want to say thank you again for having me on. It was really a lot of fun. I hope we can do this again. And to echo Beatles, yes, if you're thinking about buying the game, just buy it. It's worth every bit, every penny. If you want to be completely immersed in a baseball world when you play, that this is the game that you want. I mean, it's just historically, fictionally, current season, anything you want, you can pretty much do an Out of the Park. And I'll leave it at that. So, and
perfect team. Well, the only other thing, I had a question for Mike if he wanted to mention anything about horse anatomy, but I suppose we'll save that for another one.
Okay. Well, the one thing I like about my friend Beatles is that you never know what's coming next. Anyway, Mike, I want to thank you very much for your time and spending the hour with us here talking about Out of the Park baseball. It's been my pleasure to meet you. As a matter of fact, I was on Beatles broadcast the day he saw your name in the live chat, and he was just enamored. It was like,
I know.
It was like Muhammad. It was like Muhammad Ali had just checked in.
Yeah, it was like the dude that beat anorexia made a comment on one of my broadcasts.
Yeah, that was fun. I remember exactly that time. I saw him using my pucks. I just put a comment like, "Hey, those pucks look great. Thanks, man."
I mean, it was a lot of fun. And Beatles, I want to thank you very much for being my co-host.
Bernie.
This is
always
this adventure of ours that we're doing. I don't know how long it's going to last, But
Hey.
however long it does last, we have a good time together. I enjoy you on the broadcasts when you and I broadcast some of my games together. And
Thank you,
that's
Bernie.
what brought about
Yeah.
my idea of doing this particular show, because we'd get on Friday nights, Saturday nights with you and one of your chin wags and be talking for 3 or 4 hours. And I thought the community as a whole would benefit by joining our talks. I don't think they want to spend 4 hours with us, but I
Well,
thought
yeah, but what about
I
yeah,
thought
but
1
Bernie,
hour was enough.
yeah, but what about the upcoming Kate Beckinsale retrospective?
Okay. And with that, I want to thank everybody for listening and look forward. This is our April broadcast, and I want to thank everyone for coming on. And we'll be back next month in May with episode number 3. I want everyone to have a nice evening, and we look forward to seeing you all online. Have a nice evening.
Good night, guys.